And I'm rolling. I'm going to be the judge today, and maybe the chat will be the jury. I don't even know because I've never done this before. It's actually kind of strange for me to be here without somebody to interview. So I'm kind of interviewing myself, I suppose. um, so I have been wanting to do this for a long time, and I played around with, trying to get people that could be regulars that could come on that you guys would love. And it's just really, really hard to coordinate that. And so I have decided that since I'm always on time, I'm going to have me as my guest. And what I want to play with is judgment. And I'll explain that a little later. But I wanted to start out with where radical non judgment came from. Um, there is a gentleman by the name of Aubrey Marcus, and he did the most insane show I have ever seen about him and his wife, and how he was a total playboy before her, and how she did not want to date him even because he was a playboy, and that she'd been through so much in her history and she didn't ever want to do that. And so he sold her on radical monogamy. And I also feel like she was kind of ganged up on in my own person. All of this is my personal opinion. And I feel like she was kind of ganged up on because his therapist, who is a gentleman by the name of something Gaffney, and this guy was actually on the show. They had him. They ironically had him there as like some expert who, to me, just made it absolutely more terrifying. And this gentleman had them convinced that through telling the truth, that was more radical monogamy than somebody who cheated and didn't tell the truth, or whatever. And how it takes so much to put your truth out there, and how they have a special love constellation. And I swear, I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. I am literally witnessing this woman being groomed by her husband and hello Kathy, by her husband and her husband's mentor, therapist, whatever you want to call him, who when you do a little research on him, he's pretty suspect, again, in my opinion. And so I sat there and I thought about my own journey and how the word radical was kind of a big deal in my life. And my daughter thinks that I should share more of my life with you guys. I don't know if she's the genius she thinks she is, but I actually think she's pretty savvy. And so I thought, okay, well, I will share my radical codependency, or actually my radical move from, it was actually called radical self-care. And that's how I healed myself. So I was just a codependent human because I grew up with a father who was a sold out Marine. So hoorah. And because of that, everything had to be shipshape and organized, and he never knew what mood he was going to be in. And we were always hedging and uncomfortable. And when dad would come home, everybody would be like, oh my God, turn off all the lights, clean everything. And so that became part of my personality, especially because I was a firstborn child. And it was a lot to carry. And I saw how mad he would get at my one sister, who was so feminine and so girly. So I was like, well, I'll just be a tomboy and this will just solve everything. And so I see how a lot of the trans stuff happens when I think back to my childhood. And so, long story short, I have this incredibly demanding father who, you get to the point where you have to create like some incredible technologies as far as being able to read other people. And you have to get really good also at being able to almost anticipate their needs, because you don't want the arguments, you don't want the fight, you just want to live your life. And so 2 of myself and one other sister, we got really good at it, but because of that, we attracted a certain type of person. Because we were able to kind of read what people needed, we would do that. Long story short, I'm married forever and a highly codependent person. I got trained fast though because he was always gone. He was always out of town. He was a huge businessman, and so I kind of was forced to do everything by myself, and it was good in that it helped me grow. It was bad though for a marriage because it made me more and more independent and more capable, and finally, I just couldn't take it anymore. And this is a girl who, like, I'm telling you, in kindergarten, I had a boyfriend. His name was Michael Stevenson, and he was a hockey player. And I used to hold on to his coat when we would go to kindergarten on the bus. And I just thought he was the coolest thing ever. And I always had some boy I was interested in. I always had a boyfriend. I never went 2 days without one. And so I I get a divorce, and I spend the next 5 years studying not codependency. I was studying narcissism because I was told by my therapist that that was the problem that I had in my marriage. And so I wanted to understand it. I wanted to figure it out. And I mean, when I spend 5 years doing something, it's intense and I get it. I got it so well that I was at a dinner one time with a bunch of women, all of them doctors and 3 of them therapists, and somebody had just had an issue with a narcissistic boyfriend, and they asked one of the therapists, and they're like, "Oh, ask Carmen, she knows way more about it than I do." And I'm not saying that because I'm an expert, I'm saying it because it was me trying to figure out what was wrong with me. And one day I was watching Sam Vaknin, who is, according to him, a level 9 narcissist who explained that when you're that much of a narcissist, you're either going to end up dead in jail or running the world. And I started thinking about what he was teaching, and he was doing this special show with a guy who had the opposite problem of him, and he was a massive codependent who had healed himself. And so the 2 of them were having this incredible conversation about narcissism, codependency, and it was the first time that it actually dawned on me to, like, fix myself, to look at what I was doing instead of what was happening on the outside of me. And I remember it was like such an epiphany. I went, "How is it that I was 45, I think, when I got divorced. For that many years, I would focus my whole life around what was happening on the outside of me rather than looking at the inside of me." And this is why I'm a big believer in no matter what is going on in your relationship, it doesn't matter if the man's cheating on you. It doesn't matter if he's a narcissist. It doesn't matter because you participate in it. And that is the bitter pill to swallow. So once I realized I was a codependent, um, I realized I didn't have to study narcissism anymore. And there was great news. And this is great news for anybody who's watching this. If you're a codependent, and I'm going to give you a huge disclaimer here, I am not a therapist. I am a really well-read and well-studied person who's been through no man's land. And because of it, I have a lot of, I believe, really proven wisdom to share. And so I apologize, that's my printer if it's loud. And so when it came to that a realization of like, oh my gosh, all I have to do is fix me. And then I don't have to know what's going on with any narcissist. And it's also transferred over into so many beautiful places in my life. And I think this is why I find it so important to share the history of why I'm calling this radical non-judgment. And there's more to come on each one of those words. So radical self-care is the antidote to the venom of being bit by a narcissist. When you have been in the clutches of somebody or a system that is controlling you and doing so literally with unbelievable power that it almost knocks you off center over and over again. A lot like, COVID and all of the different things that go on in the news. It's a product of that same spirit, that same signature move is a very narcissistic or Jezebel type spirit. And so once you realize that it's you and that you are the one that has the problem, you're the one that's codependent, you're the one that has victim mentality, you're the one, then you got to swallow that pill. And that is really, really hard. I will never forget listening to a tape by a woman out of Australia. I wish I could remember her name. And she was talking about her realization of coming to terms with victimhood. And I remember going, but I really was a victim, but I really was. But I also stayed and stayed and stayed and tried to fix it and tried to fix it and tried to fix it. And that's on me because what I should have been doing was fixing me all along. And the good news is I figured it out. The bad news is you know, it cost a marriage, it cost a family breaking up, which is horrifying. But the good news is I have helped so many people stay married and also people who are very close in my family who are stunned at how far they've gotten along just having this information. And so I think it's really important that people understand that when you are a narcissist, you have a very, very low chance of healing yourself. You have to really want it, and you have to understand how you operate, and you have to understand all of your hidden blind spots. But if you are highly empathic and you're a victim and you are codependent, guess what? That can be healed quickly. So, for example, once I realized, holy crap, I'm watching that show, it's me. I start figuring out what is codependency, and I spend some time like figuring out like, okay, that is somebody that like hitches to somebody, but then when that person goes up, they go up. When that person goes down, they go down. So they're hung underneath them basically. And it's a very it's interesting because it trains you to be very, very tolerant and very powerful, but it also trains you to be somebody's, for lack of better word, bitch. And so once I realized that that was my problem, I realized the antidote, like I was saying. So the venom bite is the narcissism and the codependency, and the cure or the antidote is to take care of yourself. And that was very foreign to me. Like I literally didn't know what I liked to eat. I didn't know where I liked to sit in a movie theater. I didn't know where I would go if I was alone. I had such like I felt like a Russian girl that had only had one kind of bread in the bread line, and all of a sudden I'm at Tom Thumb or some huge store, and I've got 500 choices of bread, and I'm overwhelmed. And so what happened was once I realized it was all about self-care, and I knew the pain I was in. I knew that it was stopping me from actually living properly. So I was like, okay, how can I fast track self-care? Because this is what he's saying, the guy that's talking to Sam Vaknin. He's like the Spartan something. I feel so bad I don't remember his name either, but it was because of him that I realized, okay, it is just me taking care of myself, which also seemed very easy because I spent my whole life taking care of everybody else, including charities and, just all the things. So I'm like, okay, how do I take this like really seriously? And that's why I love the word radical. And I know it's massively overused in a lot of like self-help or rehab things, but it is to thoroughly and to fully and to purely do something. And when you are fully taking great care of yourself and you're just a codependent, you can begin shifting yourself. And I'm telling you, I went from crying on the fetal position, realizing it, to within 8 weeks being able to talk to my ex in a way that was really productive for our children for the first time since our divorce. And that was all on my it was all on my work. That was everything that I had done. And so I at the time was living with my daughter. My son had already been out of the house, and she was 16. She could drive. She could, make her own dinners and stuff. So I just told her, I said, "Hey, I'm going to do some radical self-care." So, I mean, it is gonna be all about me, and I'm only gonna do it maybe 4 weeks and just see how it goes. And so I would wake up, I would have a green drink, I would go for a walk, and every time I went on a walk, I made sure that I played a really inspirational book. And I not only walked, but I had these incredible experiences with nature. I mean, anyone that has taken long walks hiking knows how beautiful it is. It's magical. And I had these nature baths every day, and then I would work out, and then I would get home and I would eat only super healthy food, organic food, all homemade, pretty much raw. And then I started doing the harder things, like literally taking myself to dinner and sitting there by myself and deciding where I wanna sit. And I know those sound like such little things, but when you are codependent, you are such a people pleaser. And the thing is the great news is, usually a codependent is somebody that can actually bring the fun. They're actually the person who is so incredible and so, capable that it's not difficult, it was just foreign. And so I'd go places by myself, and I would journal, and I would order a dinner, and I started realizing, "Oh my gosh, this is actually wonderful." So then I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna try going to a movie theater," because that one just seemed so lame to me, like, I could never imagine going to a movie theater by myself, and so I did that. Over this period of time of just taking great care of myself, um, I had so many magical things, like even bizarre large number checks that came to me in the mail. I had I mean, it really was a magical time, and I'm not saying you should spend your whole life just taking care of just you and no one else. I'm a big believer in giving to other people, but I do believe I could see that I was starting to heal, and so I extended how long I was gonna do it. Well, within 8 weeks, I had absolutely healed my codependency to the point that I could even say no to my friends, and I think that's a huge, um to me, if somebody is codependent and they can gracefully say no to people in their own lives, they've absolutely gotten to a place where they have grown and they have been able to, they've been able to overcome that fear that really is unfounded. It's a fear that, "Oh, that person won't like me anymore. That person won't take me out anymore or invite me places anymore if I say no, if I'm genuinely myself." And so it took 8 weeks. I got rid of this awful codependent girl, and I mean really got rid of her. She has not come back. Would it be wonderful to have people to count on or be connected to in a way like, being married? Yeah, it would be great, but it also is so rewarding to spend time with God and to really learn and to share as an elder rather than to, focus only on, your immediate family, if that makes sense. And so that's the radical. And I just thought it was so funny that this man talks his wife, Aubrey, because I got off track. Aubrey talked his wife into marrying him under the guise of radical monogamy. They even had like they even did workshops, and we have the answer to the happiest, like we never thought this playboy man could ever be such a monogamous amazing man. Well, and I don't think that lasted very long. I don't know how long they've been married, but very soon after that, Um, I think that his wife was so if you watch this show, I highly recommend you see it because it is the most perfect example, in my opinion, I'm being the judge today, of how somebody can operate to completely influence somebody that they're having oxytocin parties with. And so this man somehow gets his wife to be open to an open marriage after he promised her a life of radical monogamy. But now he's got this doctor helping him, this doctor telling them that it is radical, and it is monogamy because she's your number one girl, and there's, nobody else, that's the number one girl, but this is another constellation. And they use all these crazy words. It's obnoxious. And what happened was I just thought it was really funny because radical monogamy to me would be, like, oh, he never even has meetings with women alone in a room, or, something that would be really hedging towards monogamy. But instead, it was the complete opposite. And I also, with the non-judgment piece, I think I think we need to judge. I think people have been trained not to judge. And I'm doing a play on Marcus Aubrey's radical monogamy and calling it radical non-judgment, because really what I will be doing is judging. And I really want to hear from you guys things that you would like to have conversations about. Like, I would really like to know if there's something that you are stuck on, like you're not quite sure if this is fair, or you've lost discernment in this area or that. And I'm not saying I have the answers, but I think it'd be fun to judge. And here's why I think judging is really important, because it is very dangerous to not judge. I I had a very naive look at other people as a younger person. I grew up in an area where most everyone was trustworthy and would do what they would say they would do, and that auto trust ended up harming me in a lot of ways. And now when I use clarity and borders and things that protect me, I am using judgment. And I think it's one of the most dangerous things that we do as Christians also. Um, I think Christians do a lot of, what's the word for it? They're I guess it's just piety, like, they just think they've got it all figured out, and that they're allowed to say, "Oh, judging people is wrong," but actually righteous judgment is important, and I think it's what's killing people right now. I mean, literally killing people, because they don't have anything to hold on to, and when you don't have anything to hold on to, you'll hold on to anything. And I think that more people need to practice judging. Um, yeah, like I said, I would love to hear from you guys if there's things that you have a hard time deciding on. And it doesn't matter if it's political, if it's a podcast, if it's whatever. But I think the important thing is not to judge so much on the person as much as the acts that they're doing. And I know a lot of people already know that. Here's a list. I pulled up a list of the ways that people judge others, and you can just kind of feel for yourself whether you do this or not, and whether it's a good kind of judging or a bad kind of judging. And I would say, if you think about the way Jesus rolled, including getting rid of the fig tree when it did not produce fruit, I think that you can easily say that he would make a decision based on somebody's fruit. And I believe that no matter who you are always, always, always showing who you are. And one of the best ways to get good at this is if you're in a room full of people, it doesn't matter if it's family or whatever, see if they'll play 2, 2 truths and a lie. I literally played this the other night, and I got every single one of them right, and there's a reason, and that reason is because I've gotten really good at proper judgment or radical non-judgment, which is my new name for it. So, appearance. Biblically, appearance is not a way we're supposed to judge, but I would say that you can tell a lot by somebody's appearance. You can tell a lot by what they're doing. Um, just recently read a study about it was a Harvard study, and it said that there were 2 things that people look for immediately, and it's within milliseconds. And I would say that this is judging on appearance, but I would also say it's judging on vibe or, um, I don't because I just think it's so much more than appearance, but this first one, we'll just go with appearance. And so the 2 questions that people ask themselves when they first see somebody is, "Can I trust this person?" and "Can I respect this person?" And we do this subconsciously, which I think is so incredible. And it's like God already installed in us this ability that my family had trained out of me. No, you behave, you obey, you do all of these things that actually ended up harming me. And so I think it's really important for people to know, yes, gut judgment, Joy, yes. Um, and so you think about appearance and you'd go, well, that's really judgmental in a bad way, but not really, not if you're, like, gonna date somebody and they show up looking horrible and, unshowered and, I actually had a friend that went to go pick up some girl for a date, and she did not shower, she didn't get dressed up, she was wearing, like, pajamas, and he just was like, "I gotta go, like, I can't do this," which I thought was so almost like she was testing him. Um and so I love how Kathy just said that she's tuned into her sense of smell. That's a huge one. And like Dr. Laura Sanger and I have really gotten into the voice because there is this like bubbly, gurgly sound that comes out of people I don't trust. And I don't do it like, oh, their voice is like that, so I don't trust them. That's not how I roll. But if it's somebody that I've already had an experience with, and Cheryl Beck gave the best name for it. Hey, Cheryl, if you watch this, she goes, it's because I told her, I goes, it's like somebody has a bubble in their throat, or you know how when someone's sick, they sound super nasally, or and she's like, oh my God, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like a gargoyle. And she goes, you know those gargoyles, and they're like the gutters, and it's like guttural, and it like comes out like it's bubbling, and I absolutely think that's what it sounds like. So we basically are calling them gargoyle tones. They have a gargoyle tone, and it's an actual sound that comes out of somebody's mouth, and this is a way that we can judge somebody, and people do it all the time. And this is why I think one of the best advantages I had in doing the two truths and a lie in that last game where I just kicked everyone's butt was because of my working in production and working with my daughter when she was acting and sitting in so many private acting classes and just watching how people react. And so it's gotten me really good at seeing, false flags in the news also, which is really cool. And when I'm working with a client, I can tell when they're hiding something from themselves or when they're hiding something from me because they hold back in ways that aren't normal, and you start seeing it. So first thing is appearance, clothing, grooming, body type, attractiveness. I mean, think about it. You can tell by looking at somebody if they work out, if they drink too much or whatever. A lot of that is on their face. Facial expressions, smiling, eye contact, resting face. And that was actually one of the ways that I got the hardest one when we were playing that game was I saw this guy's facial expression that he made on 2 of them, but he didn't on the other one. So I knew that those 2 were acted on and the other one was real. And so these are all really good things for us to radically non-judge people. Um, Learning all of the different ways that a human is expressing so that you can really look at it. I'm sorry, it's freezing here. Okay, so the next one is tone of voice, which we already talked about. But one of the things that I thought was really interesting about tone of voice is confidence level. You can tell by how somebody projects, um, or the way they hold their voice, how they're feeling about themselves. Saw the most interesting video about super rich kids and how they have this like really bizarre line between I don't give a shit and I have to have the best, which I thought was really fascinating. And it's going to be something I'll be watching because I've never really looked at that before. But that's a type of comfort in the world in general. And yes, Michael, discernment is so important. Another one is word choice, like me just cussing. That wasn't very good. It shows you I'm not perfect. There's also how articulate somebody is, the accents that they put on things. You can kind of tell where they are. Body language, posture, gestures, physical distance. I mean, have you ever been with somebody that is like right in your face? It tells you something about them. It tells you that they don't really care about other people as much as you would imagine because they don't understand space. They don't understand that you should give some room between somebody. And if you ever need help with that, just put your foot out and lean back. Okay, so word choice already did, body, social behavior, manners, politeness, humor, and empathy. This is something that I think more people should look at when they're trying to discern. People are like, oh, I really think Candace is great, or I really think, Russell Brand is great, or whatever. And I'm always like, gosh, to me, like you can tell by how they behave or what they unapologetically promote on how really respectable and trustworthy they are. I had a huge argument with one of my family members about Russell Brand about, I don't know, 2 years ago. And now, now that he has 2 more allegations, she's like, okay, I think you were right on that one. All right, let's see. The scriptures tell us to judge righteously, and you can't do that with evaluation. You can't do that with evaluation or without. But yeah, judging righteously, I also think it's kind of interesting on the judging righteously thing. I think a lot of that comes from, have you been in their position? And it's a lot easier. Okay, good. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Without, that makes more sense. I'm in agreement with that one, Joy. Yes. And here's the thing about righteously. I mean, righteously is so, as a matter of fact, I should pull that up on Perplexity because I have been doing such cool stuff with words that it kind of blows my mind what some of them mean. This is a total sidebar, but this is all because of my Bible study. I have the best Bible study partner in the universe. Like, it's really, really hard to find people who you can dig in with and they're just as passionate and just as nerding out in it. And I love it. I look forward to it. We went from 1 hour to 2 hour to 3 hour. This last week, it was 4 hours, but we've gotten into really parsing out the words and looking them up in Aramaic, Arabic, Hebrew, Greek, and just whatever the regular etymology is. And what we have learned is actually mind-blowing. Like even the word verse, this one was so interesting to me. It means to be turned, which I would have never guessed that in a million years. I just thought it was, here's this verse, like we're counting it out, but it actually means to be turned. So like universe is one turn. Like I thought that was so cool. But anyway, I've gotten so into looking at the actual, full etymology of words, and I started looking up my name, and it was so cool, and I highly suggest you guys do this. I did it for my sisters, I did it for, like, all these people at a party we were at, and, even the kids were liking it. You just look up what your name means, and it used to be that people name people after how they behaved, and that's why when they say to pray in the name of Jesus, if you really look up what name is, it means the nature. Um, but the full etymology of righteousness, let's look that up. With Bible, Hebrew, etc. So anyway, I look up my name, and it's always been a song of the Lord or something from the vineyard. And I was like, well, I want to know like the Hebrew, I want to know the real root of my name. And it was fascinating because there was this woman named Carmentia or Carmenta, and she's called many different things. And I think she might have even been like some god. And that would make sense why the name would be, more popular in certain areas of the world. But she created alphabet letters for Latin words, and so she was the first person that did that. She was a prophet. She was all these really cool things. And I just thought, how cool is it that that's my name and how fun it is to know that. So I highly suggest you guys look it up. What are some of my sources? So I use all different kinds, and most of them digital just because we're in a hurry. And I do have all of the other stuff, but I would say I mostly use Perplexity, and then I always ask for, like I said, the Greek, the Hebrew, the Aramaic, and the Arabic. And the reason I asked for the Arabic, which I just started doing, was because I found out that Hebrew was created later, and it's like Arabic with Yiddish. And so I was like, okay, this is so cool. So anyway, back to righteousness, the state of being right wise. And so when you think about, when the younger you would do things and you thought you were smart and you really weren't, and then when you cross what I call no man's land and you actually get to a place of having right wisdom, that is the place that you can judge from. And it's typically because you've been there. It's easy to judge when you haven't been in someone's shoes, but I've actually been in the shoes that this woman is in, different kinds of sins, but the fact that she's in this marriage, she's crying on the podcast. You guys should watch this podcast. It's unbelievable to me. She's crying on this podcast saying, I'm trying so hard to just open up and to be this and be that. And all I see is actual not right wisdom. And so I want to judge her righteously, and I want to say, hey lady, you are valuable and you deserve a monogamous relationship if that's the thing that you got into the marriage for. And men are supposed to protect us. And if we had more adult men who also knew how to judge righteously, then it kind of stops all of the spinning that we're all in. Because really, everything that is going on in this world comes down to the immaturity of adults who don't know how to judge righteously, who have no idea not only what they're doing wrong to the point that they think it's right, but also many of them are so stuck in their hedonism and their functioning and their addictions or whatever it is, that they can't even see it. It is so They are so blinded. And this is why I do think therapists, life coaches, wellness coaches, best friends, I think they're really important. And I do think where two or more are gathered, there's a huge advantage. I can help somebody get out of something that might have taken them months. I can help people that I've worked with already. They'll come back maybe a year later and go, "Oh my God, I just need you to help me with something." And it's just little things that they've hidden from themselves. And if you don't understand that, watch my last video with Priscilla and Amanda, because Amanda explains denial. And I'm telling you, this is the thing that everybody will go, "But my husband always does this." Okay, well, then that means your husband has an aspect of himself that is childlike, has no idea how to righteously judge. And so he keeps acting immature and you keep letting him. And so if you don't have the skills to figure out how to adjust that, then you're going to be living in that for the rest of your life. And that just doesn't sound good to me. And thank you. I love these glasses too. My daughter makes me wear like glasses to protect me from the red light. I think it's red light. I forgot. Blue light. It's blue light. And so yeah, because when I look at that with these, I can't see all of those letters. So, yeah, I just think the to be right wise is super important. And to be able to, yes, those kind of people really do believe their own lies. And it's not those kind of people. I know you weren't saying it to be ugly. It really is all of us. Um, I can still catch myself doing it. Something will happen. Thank you, Michael. It is blue light. Something will happen and I'll just be like, "Oh, there's a little vapor. There's a little vapor of victim left. Or there's a little." I've discovered I have a new character in me called like a hopelessly optimistic Heidi, because this girl just will keep trying to make a bad situation good when really she should just turn around and go do something else. Um, and so back to this righteous, okay, so non-judgment, it's a play on him having radical monogamy. And one of the things that, I took some notes on him because I was just like, "Oh my gosh, you got to hear some of the stuff that they were saying." It is mind-blowing. Hold on, I'm going to pull up a couple. And this isn't about just him. I look at anyone who is behaving ugly to someone they love as somebody that still needs to grow up, and the person who allows it as somebody that still needs to grow up. And so he also did this whole crazy thing where he had one of his friends he plays basketball with, who's super good looking, going to all of the same little like 20 people events in Austin, and he caught her eye. This is what he said. He said, um, he he caught my wife's eyes, ultimately in our expanded relationship constellation. That's the words. And all I can think of is what in the heck happened to this man in order for him to completely justify with a hired psychologist who is in agreement with him to try and help him get his wife and his lover to be on the same podcast talking about how great it is while his wife is crying. Yet she was in some sort of romantic relationship with one of his friends, who I just think this happened for a reason ahead of time. And it gets worse. Like, he's literally in Egypt, and some goddess tells him that his lover, the young one, is going to have a baby with him. And then his wife wanted to throw her ring overboard. And I mean, the fact that there are people this childish in charge of huge podcasts is something that I think we all should be good at recognizing. And I have no problem with somebody living the way they want to live, because God's going to handle them. That's on them. But what I have a problem with is somebody displaying and role modeling something that could be so harmful and dangerous to somebody because they're not judging it. What was another one? Like, he literally said the words, "You never tried to put a wedge between Vi and I, or Alana hasn't put a wedge between Vi and I." And he's talking to this guy, Josh, because after that show, so many people were just blasting it. And so he thought, "Oh, I'm gonna have the guy on, and then, I won't look so crazy." Um, Hold on, I gotta where's one? The element of Josh that she will hold on to no matter how this unfolds with all her might is the music. So apparently Josh and her have this music thing. To me, it was one big grooming session with a man who had to have come from a very bizarre background. And of course, I started s I had to know, like, where did this guy come from? And he came from a divorced family, and his mom remarried a man who literally created this thing that I'm so disgusted by. I just think about he was probably like 15 something, I'm guessing, when his mom married this guy, and he created a gadget called the fleshlight, and I had never heard of it in my life, and I was like, "What the heck is it?" And then I start reading about it, and there was this article in California about how this guy's stepdad created a doll that he could have sex with because his wife couldn't have sex while she was having something. I don't remember what it was. There was some medical reason. So he literally is so hungry for sex that he creates a doll, and his wife is fine with it. To each their own. But this kid is growing up with this, then that's where he worked. He actually worked at a place that makes these things, but they ended up not being dolls. They ended up being things that look like flashlights that men can use that I don't even wanna go into, and I don't wanna contaminate everybody with all that, but this is where this guy comes from. And so, of course, he has some stunted areas, in my opinion, that haven't grown up, and then he's got this crazy um, I think crazy guy telling him that this is normal and that he's having radical monogamy, and it is absolutely horrifying to me. And I do think we need to judge these things. I do think that more of us need to speak up when we see things that aren't right. And I think you can do that without being too crazy. I want to go back to the rest of those appearance things. Oops. The list, because we didn't get through the list yet, and I do wanna get through it before I head out. Um, because I want everyone to have, like, a really good way of kinda going through, "How am I judging this person? Am I judging correctly? Am I judging from a right place? And am I not being a hypocrite?" I think that's the main thing. I'm not out there like hanging out with my husband and then trying to get some guy in my bed at the same time he's trying to get somebody. Uh, It's just nuts. So, okay, so moral and ethical behavior, um, that would be honesty, integrity, and compassion. See, these are the things, like, if you understand what the word means, you really can do a better job of assessing how effectively you're doing it, like radical, thoroughly, purely, 100% from the grassroots, right? So the other one is education and intelligence. And I think this is one that actually can be dangerous. I think that people use certificates like doctor, lawyer, things like that, and they use them as power plays, and they use them in ways to take advantage and commit fraud or do different things like that. So I think that's another one to just be aware of. What they do for a living or their career could be a job title, and these are all things that we can judge on, but I think they're just great things to be aware of. So, like, it's like you're scanning, like somebody comes in and you're judging righteously, and you're kinda going, "Okay, this doesn't make sense, put that over here." And then you're scanning some more, "Oh, this one doesn't make sense." And then when you get a bunch of those and you've got something to work with on figuring out, am I projecting my stuff on them, or am I really needing to get away from this person? Like, was that the 3 red flags that I need to be aware of? Occupation or career, um, how much ambition they have. Are they willing to step on people? There's one thing to be successful, it's another thing to be greedy, and we need to know the difference. My set is too elaborate for your view count. Here is my righteous judgment. Thanks. I guess that makes sense. I guess it's elaborate. It's just my house. All right. So, occupation or career, wealth or material status, possessions, lifestyle, financial habits, cultural or ethnic background, traditions, language, customs, social groups or associations. And we all know that some of those associations can be ones that seem really harmless, like church, that can be very dangerous, really dangerous. Cultural or ethnic backgrounds, traditions, language, customs, social group or associations, past behaviors or reputations. And I think that's a really tough one, but you also have to, I remember having this kid that I was working with, not a kid, but he's in his 20s. His parents wanted me to work with him, and he was really upset that his parents were still treating him like he was before he went to drug rehab and alcohol rehab, but he didn't earn the right for them not to. And so I think you have to really assess each one of these things. You have to look at why are they not trusting me? Oh, yeah, I crashed a car and it cost them a lot of money to put me here and there, and so of course they're not going to. And once he got to where he understood their point of view, then that it was fine. Past behaviors or reputations, rumors, history or credibility, romantic or family life, partners, parental style, loyalty, online presence, media activity, posts, and interactions. And this is something that can come back and bite people later, people getting sued, all kinds of stuff. All right, LOL, what was righteous about that fly guy? Well, he thinks in his mind that view count matters. I don't. I think if one person learns something from this and it changes their life, or they stay married, or they learn to discern better and they are judging people righteously, then we win. Time management and reliability. I think that's a really important one. I think that when somebody is super cavalier with your time, it really is an indicator of who they are. And so watch that. And this is why a lot of people get frustrated with like words like the law of correspondence. And I love that. I absolutely think it is a brilliant law. I think it is extremely accurate. And I also think it's biblical. Jesus basically was saying what's in the heart comes out of the mouth. And that's kind of how somebody expresses is more than just how they speak. It's everything. All right. So, achievements and failures, awards, mistakes, career paths, sense of humor, confidence, self-esteem. And self-esteem is a big one because that is the thing that's missing when somebody's a codependent. They can be wonderful. They could be literally badass. But if they don't take care of themselves, if they don't have boundaries, then they are missing something in how they carry themselves, and that's what makes them prey. The predators always can read it. The predators know this stuff. The happy person doesn't ever look and hedge against marrying the grumpy person, but the grumpy person does not want to marry somebody grumpy. They're on it. And so those are the ways that you can be aware of it. And then empathy and kindness towards others. And then I'm sure there's others. I mean, how do you guys judge people? Some, fly guy judges me based on how many lights I have in my background. I added this one today. Um, let's see, or not today. I mean, I didn't buy it today, but I added it to the set. All right. So, another thing I wanted to chat with you guys about is how really and truly a lot of the legalistic verbiage, it comes from the Old Testament. It comes from the law. It comes from, I believe, an insincere way of handling religion. Like what Jesus came and did was magnificent because he changed it to grace. And so we don't have to keep the law. We can't keep the law anyway. And so I do think it's interesting that when you work in a court, there's so many words and there's so much reverence, and it's almost like biblical. It's it's kind of wild. Understanding and time are gifts. Yes. Glad I'm not missing out in this conversation and moment. Oh, you're awesome, Joy. Thank you. Um, and so I guess the most important takeaway that I have for everyone today, if you're interested in it, is that we do need more radical non-judgment. We need to be more judgmental. We need to be able to not only judge, but we need to be able to, with grace and with a lot of compassion, express it. Because if we don't, we're going to keep ending up with more and more stunted adults, and adults who have power, and they have influence, they have money, but it is a child that's running them. They have not matured. They haven't grown up. And you got to be able to start recognizing these people by the things that they do. Oh, there was something else I wanted to make sure that we talked about, because I was asking how it's dangerous. And then it had like several categories, and I thought these were really interesting. So there's personal risks of falling to judge right from wrong, leaves individuals vulnerable to manipulation or danger. And this is where like kids are really in trouble. And also why I love, a lot of people think the Grimm's fairy tales are too dark for children, but those were actually made more mild. They were all more crazy and more like for example, Snow White, it wasn't the stepmom, it was the real mom. And it wasn't just that the hunter was supposed to kill her. She was supposed to bring back her lungs and her heart so that the mother could eat it. I mean, it was absolutely insane. And the little dwarfs, like the actual real story was there were children that were working in the coal mines because they were tiny and they would fit. And so she had to go, this child, this story, she had to go into the mountains because she had to hide from her own mother because her beauty and her power was so incredible that the mother was jealous that she might have a better freaking kingdom than hers. And I think there's so many people still operating out of this type of fear. And if we don't teach kids in particular some of the dangers, then they have to learn the hard way. And we don't want that. We want to collapse that learning curve. We want kids to be able to learn this stuff quickly. And so that's why I really like the stories. And I think kids like them too, as long as they're not too scary. For instance, Jesus warns in Matthew 7, 15, 20 to judge false prophets by their fruit, to avoid ravenous wolves disguised as allies. And I do believe that that is where you find your politicians, your actors that are using their influence for bad, your horrible evangelical leaders that care more about their airplanes than feeding the people in their cities, or helping people get jobs and stuff. So that's interesting. Thanks, Joy, for saying that. So reading that stuff as a child gave me the seeds of discernment personally. Um, I agree, and I remember going, I like all of these. The only one I didn't like was The Emperor's New Clothes, but then when COVID happened, I was like, "Oh, I get that one too now." Um, they're all I mean, I think they're incredible. Every time I see one, I listen to it again because every time I pick up something from, like, each story that is absolutely profound to me. Alright, so let's go back. Psychologically, avoiding judgment fosters moral relative gosh, it's not coming out. Relativism. Ah, I did it. Whoop, whoop. All right, where personal ethics can't improve since no objective standard exists, trapping individuals in stagnant or self-deception. And I would say that's kind of where I lived. I lived in kind of this self-deception, but it was more of like keeping keeping my head above water. Um, Social dangers. In groups, non-judgment allows sin or harm to spread unchecked. Paul rebukes the Corinthian church for tolerating incest, urging judgment for reconciliation and protection. And I think that's where a lot of men, in my opinion, especially elder men, I am so disappointed in so many of them. And I apologize if you're one of them. We can have a sidebar, but there are so many accomplished, wealthy men over 60 that are using their power to enjoy life rather than teaching the next generation how to get the things that they're supposed to have. For instance, they're poaching all of the younger hot women, 40, 50, 60-year-old men, poaching the younger women when, in my opinion, they should be helping younger men get into positions where they can capture these girls themselves, which is who they're actually matched to be with. And I will argue with anyone all day long about this. I have watched it. I have watched young women marry older men, and they're taking care of them now, and they shouldn't have to do that. They shouldn't have made those choices, and of course, a few years doesn't matter, and yes, always there's always an exception, but I am judging these men based on the selfishness of it, and how if you look at how a tribe is gonna survive, if you take the males out, you now make all these people vulnerable because they don't have somebody the younger men don't have somebody teaching them how to create the kingdom. The younger women don't have protection. The older women get totally left out, which is great because we like to study the Bible and we don't mind at a certain age. It's like, okay. But if you really look at, in my opinion, the damage that happens, and also the one thing that I've noticed the most, and these are guys I know, they'll date a girl in her early 30s, in her late 20s, because he's got all the cash, and that's bad on her, but see, that should be some elder man teaching her not to do that. But she gets used for 2 years of her prime years, and then he goes on to the next one. And I'm telling you, I have seen it over and over again. There are very, very few that work, and I'm more apt to agree with the ones who got married than the ones who are just living with some guy and enjoying his riches while she's, like, going through the best years of her life. And then there's a whole bunch of guys that are in their 20s and 30s that are kind of missing out on it. Our brokenness affects our discernment. I've been an extremely slow learner in some areas. It's not an easy season I find myself in because of it. Exactly. And so that's why one of the things I wanted to go through was how it can be dangerous not to judge. So there's personal risks. We've got the social dangers. And then the last one, oh wait, I didn't finish that one. I'm all over the place. You can tell I'm not used to interviewing myself. This enables toxic patterns like unchecked bullying or corruption in social situations. More relativism, look at me getting that word again, paralyzes criticism of evils like criticism or like racism or abuse. If everything's relative, no behavior merits condemnation, undermining accountability and justice. And then the last one is broader consequences. Societally, refusing judgment risks moral decay. And I think we're flat out seeing that. Like, I think one of the things that I love the most that I've done just recently was with Paul Stobbs of the Understanding Conspiracy when he came on and he was talking about the truth or singularity, because I really believe you have to be so mature to get to that point. That means that you went all the way through. You saw all the conspiracies. You've been through that land all by yourself, and you've come to a place of agency, which is like the most important person in the world is somebody who has agency, and so few people have it, and plenty of people are great at pretending it. I mean, really good at pretending it, like almost every one of our politicians. Societally, refusing judgment risks moral decay. Without calling out wrongs, communities can enforce norms, leading to isolation, eroded trust. I mean, look at what happened in 2020. That is the most societal erosion I've seen in my lifetime. Fastest, unbelievable. And vulnerability and threats. National security lapses from downplaying immoral risks. Biblical calls to judge righteous judgment in John 7:24 emphasizes discernment as a protective wisdom. And that's what I would call radical non-judgment, making fun of his radical monogamy. I need a gavel, y'all. I need to learn all the words too. I need to let's see. I'm experiencing that agency with certain detachment from drama. See, and I think that's good. I'll be curious to think if you think that's bad. I find the more I'm able to detach, the healthier I am. And I'm not talking about dangerous isolation. I'm talking about productive isolation. And when I went through my radical self-care, those 8 weeks, one of the things that I learned to do is to say no to people. And I had to learn how to say it in a way that people wouldn't worry about me. Because I think when you have a lot of friends like I had, and I still have, like, I just don't go out like I used to. Um, I I I had to say no to them. I knew I had to say no to them because it's not what I wanted to do, but I used to people please and be like, "Yeah, where are we all going?" You know? And I started saying that I was in my bat cave. And for some reason, nobody asked a question when I said that. And I know I've said this on several of my podcasts, but I think it's a really, really amazing hack. I just people, "What are you doing this weekend? You wanna come, get on the boat or do this?" "No, I'm gonna be in my bat cave this weekend." And everyone just respects the bat cave. So I'm curious about Joy, if you think that your detachment is good. I think you think that. I will be very interested. So, also was thinking about, um, I really wanna do this, once a week, and I wanna do it on, Wednesdays, and we'll call that Judgment Day, and I would love to have topics that you guys want to chat about. Um, it doesn't matter. It could be pop culture, it could be the news, it could be politics, it could be anything, and we can parse it out and we can look up the words. And it's really changed my life, looking up every single word. Like, it takes us so long to get through. I know, I love that. My daughter called it that. She's like, "Call it Judgment Day." Um, I really have enjoyed learning these words, like meek, everyone thinks means weak. and meek actually means controlled power. And I think that's what a man has. I think that's what an incredible nation has. I think that's what a strong parent has. And I think it's amazing. Judgment Day. Woo woo. All right. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I wanted to cover while we were here. So I did pull up a bunch of key scriptures that talk about the connection between guarding the heart and righteous judgment. And I think that's where the magic happens too. Like when I think about when I'm working with somebody, I'm imagining their heart. I'm imagining is there biases? Is there trauma? Is there just the tiniest obstacle? You know, what is it? Yeah, I'm telling you guys, like, start looking up the words you think you know. Like, I never thought to look up verse, but we've gotten so like, we are maniacs. We just keep looking up the words. Doesn't matter what it is. And we've learned so much. And to me, it's brought the Bible to life for me in a way that I have never had, and I can't thank my Bible partner enough because she tolerates me looking up every darn thing, and then she started doing it, and it's really fun. It makes Bible and, you know, I did wanna share about that too. I think Bible study is incredible, but I've always been disappointed in that it's hard to get a whole bunch of people together to do something. Either the person running it has to be super strict or they just have to let you do whatever, and some people show up and some people don't. I really think that people should find one person to have a really strong Bible study with. Like, I do other stuff with fellowship and with other people, but this has been the funnest thing I've ever done, and I think it's because we're so well matched. We're both nerding out. We're both in awe of what we learn. There's no end to it. Like we will be studying something like we just decided, and that's the other thing that's really cool is you can lean it or lead it into an area that you are completely loving. You don't have to follow what you thought you were going to go down. Like we started out with, you know, the fruit of the spirit, and now we're literally looking up all 200 words for Jesus and finding out what each one of them means and how they were used. It's absolutely fascinating. Like even carpenter, you know, they call Jesus the carpenter. This one is the one that blew me away. It literally, if you look at it from the Jewish rabbi perspective, a carpenter is someone who is a master at the law and somebody who can use it wisely, and they can architecturally build an argument. And I mean, like my whole nerd life went off. It was just incredible. Please share those studies. You know, I thought about that. I didn't know if people would be interested because we spend 3-4 hours studying. And so I could just come on here and give you guys my highlights. Maybe I'll do that. Good idea, Joy. You're increasing your neuroplasticity as well, working the brain. Oh gosh, yeah. That's like my full-time job. I love learning. If I was a symbol, I'd be a question mark. Okay, so I just thought that was so cool that the whole Jesus thing. Am I following another book besides the Bible? No. Just looking up words and reading the Bible. However, we are doing, she has 2 versions. She has King James and I think the English Standard, but I'm not sure. And then I have the NASB and the Geneva. And I really like the Geneva because every single time when we come down to like certain things, the Geneva always has the more, like, to me, it's like this uplifting way of saying it. And I wish I could think of an example for y'all, but it is so good. But no, I'm not following any other book. We're just picking things we wanna learn. And, I was really interested in all of the names of Jesus because I thought it was crazy that there were that many when I found out there were that many, and the carpenter one blew my mind. And then also a carpenter originally was somebody that built wagons. Yes, Deborah, I love it. I She said, "I hear fantastic things about the Bible." Oh, I always forget I can StreamYard's so great because I can go like this. See, and I've been reading them out loud so that people knew what we were talking about. Um, I'll have to remember. And yes, I look at me. I'm gonna just show everybody's. Yeah, no, it is absolutely incredible. What was the other one? There's a couple more that we were looking at. And so parse every single word out, even if you think you know what it means. The day that we learned the verse one, we were both like, "Whoa, it literally means to turn." And then there's been so many things that we'll be talking about something before we start, and then while we're in it, there's this complete epiphany that answers the very thing we were talking about in the beginning. Something, with her family and something that she wanted to work with or whatever. But yeah, I think it's the greatest way that I've ever studied the Bible. I think it also is more life applicable, to know what these things actually really mean. It gives you a lot of confidence in the word because you're not just wondering, I think this is what it meant. You're like looking up in Hebrew, in Greek, in Aramaic, like what each thing means. And it's just so fun. It really is so fun. I think I'm going to do that, Joy. I'll bring you guys, maybe on Wednesdays, I'll bring you my epiphanies from Mondays. That's a great idea. All right, so let me read these last ones and then I'll roll. I keep saying I thought I'd be on like 20 minutes. All right, so do not judge appearances, but judge with right judgment. So we kind of discussed that. Judge not, that you not be judged. First take the log out of your own eye, warns of hypocritical judgment, which really is the two things that I feel like Jesus was really, really, really like, as far as righteous judgment. I really feel like it was like, do not go by appearance, woman at the well, and do not, be the SOS. I don't want to say that out loud. Let's see. For from within, out of the heart of man, comes evil thoughts. All these evil things come from within and defile a person. Shows unguarded hearts corrupt all outflows, including judgments. And this is why I think it's really good that we went through the list in the first place, because when you have that list of the ways that we look at people, you can also start seeing how they're expressing. Are they expressing evil, or are they expressing the fruit of the Spirit and those 9 aspects? Let's see. There was also a really good one in Philippians 4, 6, 8, but I forgot what it was. I'll have to look that up. Let's see. The next one is Matthew 15, 19. For out of the heart comes evil thoughts, murder, adultery. And that echoes Proverbs 23, 7. Thoughts shape character and taint decisions. And this is why it's really important that all of us do the work. We have to do the work. We have to mature. We have to do some emotional spying on ourselves. And we have to see when we're calling somebody else out what we're really saying about ourselves. And we have to recognize when the little kid in us is running the show, which is fine when you're having fun with your friends. Go be a little kid. I do it all the time. I spin around in my house in my overly done set, as that guy would say. Let's see. Examine yourselves and test yourselves. And this is that heart probing, being a judge of yourself before you go and judge somebody else. And this is why I think if you've been through a similar thing, that you really can speak on it. If anyone thinks that he is religious and does not bridle his tongue, but deceives his heart, this person's religion is worthless. I mean, that's a pretty strong word, worthless. And you'd think, well, we shouldn't judge people so harshly, but yeah. Oh, thank you, Wendy. Yeah, there was a guy that came on earlier. I think he left us because I was boring and I only had 20 people in there at the time. I need to go through the armor of God. Yeah, that's a really we did do that one and it was awesome. But I'm telling you, get one person and find somebody that is at your speed. Like she and I really like digging in, and every time we're going longer and longer, and we're like, oh my God, how long do you got? But if that's not your style and you like a different style, find somebody that is your same speed and the same amount, because then nobody's really frustrated. I got so frustrated with the last one that I did because people would show up on Zoom and they'd be in their car and I was just like, I can't do it. But that was because my pace is like way up here as far as like how much I want to get done. All right, let's go back. Romans 2:5. Because of your hard and impenitent heart, you are storing up wrath for yourself on the day of wrath, when God's righteous judgment will be revealed. Hard hearts invite unrighteous outcomes. And I think that's what it is. I think when we have a hardening of our heart, we have a blind spot. And we're doing it to protect ourselves, but I don't think it's as bad as you think it's going to be when you face it. I think that you will be surprised at how much God will meet you there and the miracles that'll happen, and to be really in tune with miracles, because one of the things that we've noticed, we've been doing it for how many, I guess 4 months now. One of the things that we notice is that the miracles are super subtle. Like they're things that we want, we don't even express it, and then it happens, which is like further beyond like just doing a normal prayer, or like we're not even verbally speaking them. We just know that each other want these things, and it's just really cool. And how it's really clear it's a miracle because the timing is just mind-blowing. All right, let's see what Deborah had to say. I learned today from Dr. Sanger that the order of the armor as listed is important. Yes. And you know what I noticed too? I believe that all of the orders. So there's that one about perseverance leads to this, leads to that. I literally read that and I went, oh my God, that's the exact order in which that kind of came to me. So that's really good. And then let's see. It revealed a lot when we went through it. Love Dad. I'm sure Deborah is teed up in the proper order. It's so funny because when Dr. Laura and I were talking about it, and she's coming back in April, she's so hard to get now. She was saying that her favorite thing is the helmet of salvation. Like she just can feel it when it comes on. And I'm the opposite. For me, it's the boots of peace. I feel like I'm on a magic carpet when I am on them, because I feel like I could go anywhere in the world. And as long as I have that peace, I'm good. And I do think truth is so interesting that it's on like the center of your body, almost like a doorway going up and down, because I think truth is a friend. Like I think it inhabits, it's a being, it's alive, and it is so generous. Truth will show it will be like, oh, you like me? Okay, well here's more truth. And you're like, whoa, I didn't even know to look for that. And those would be like one of the tiny miracles that we keep having, where like things that we were asking about would actually be answered almost like that day. Like I wish I could think of examples. So Joy, next Wednesday, I'm going to bring all my epiphanies, and we'll judge them. We'll judge them. I need a gavel. I need to say that you guys can all rise because I'm leaving. I don't even know. I need to find out like some like court words. We should take this more seriously. I need a jury. So Wendy and Kathy and Deborah, you guys are now the grand jury. Or maybe you guys are the bailiffs and the grand jury. So anyway, thanks everybody for being here. Is there any last questions you guys have for me? Get out there and judge. I'm telling you. The shoes of peace pushes the seed into fertile ground so that the seed can grow. The shoes also crush the serpent's head. Yes, that is so good. Yeah, I just love it. Like if I have peace on, oh, it's all the head start in the world I need. And I think anyone that's ever had anxiety, if you can get those boots of peace on, you can cure your anxiety. Like, I don't even think you would have it anymore because you would just really learn how to be in the presence of that peace. Let's see. Kathy, it's the original in Aramaic. The pictograph reveals a lot. Wendy's so smart. Wendy has a channel, y'all. And she speaks God stuff, and I like it. I hope you guys all have a wonderful evening. I hope you all go out and judge, like really radical non-judgment. Go get them, guys. Go get them, tigers. And then I also hope that you go find a Bible study partner that you freaking like it's off the chain. Like you look so forward to it. You're mad if it can't happen because it's freezing out and you have to do it on Zoom. But have a wonderful day, everybody. Go out there and judge the world, but just do it with love.